next panel session of the day entitled 4IR, Hype versus Reality. Moderating this session, join me in welcoming Freda Liu, business presenter and moderator. Freda is a vivacious communicator who has lived and breathed business in the past decade with Malaysia's only business radio station and has conducted over 5,000 interviews with some prominent names in the industry. She is not the hype, she's the real deal. With that, the screen is yours, Freda.
Thank you, Hasrul. It's good to see you again. Anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 4IR Hype versus Reality session. And I don't believe it's hype, but it's a case of reality and how far Malaysia is in the game, opportunities available, and I guess threats if we don't stay ahead of the game. So we have three panelists, three experts here who will be sharing their thoughts of how 4IR, I'm sure, is more reality than hype, followed by a panel discussion. And of course, we'll be opening the floor for questions later. But let's get the show on the road. Let's begin with Vittorio Furlan, the head regional business insights from ADA Asia. It's over to you, Vittorio.
Hey, thank you very much, Freda, and welcome again to the audience. It's a pleasure to be here today, especially with these panelists. And welcome again to the last day of the Embed Tech month. So let me move and check my slides. So before we actually talk about Industrial Revolution 4.0, let's go for a second back in time. Let's go to the end of the 18th century. When the steam engine was invented, driving the first industrial revolution. The steam engine radically changed the way that we do manufacturing and also radically changed the transport. Imagine the train and imagine the boats. 100 years later, we moved to the discovery of electricity, the creation of electricity. Which again changed the factories, but also changed radically the way that we live our lives. The light bulb was the key invention at the time. Imagine having light in your own house. 100 years later, again, we moved to the third industrial revolution, which was brought to us by computer, telecommunication, and some robots in the industry. And the most of us are fully part of that revolution. We were born then. Now, less than 100 years later, we are here talking about the fourth industrial revolution. This is the advanced technologies. Today, in particular, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and the blockchain, but there is much more to it. For example, edge computing or additive printing. So now that we remember the history, let's just refresh our brains on what some examples of artificial intelligence. Starting with the advertising industry. There was a time when you were a creative, you would have had to create one single advert that went to a newspaper and everybody would have seen the same picture and the same copy. So whether I was Vittorio or I was Freda or somebody in the public, it was the same for everybody. You fast forward to today, and we live in the era of social media. And social media comes with two characteristics. One is that there is the possibility of highly customized content. And secondly, that there is the expectation of that highly customized content. What I see should be different to what Captain Co sees, because we are different people, even if it comes from the same brand. But then imagine multiplying the creative work by 1,000 or 10,000 or more. You cannot simply multiply the number of people. And here is where artificial intelligence comes and helps us. AI machines are able to look at the way that the people responded to ads in the past, whether they liked them, whether they disliked them, whether they commented, or whether they bought the item. And therefore, it's able to create automatically content that will resonate very well with me, and different content that will resonate very well with you. Switching to a different sector, we're going to jump to agriculture. You can recognize this picture. It's a palm plantation in Malaysia. It's one of the largest exports of the country, around $10 billion per year. And would you be able to guess which is the biggest operating cost in a plantation? Is it the people that work there, or is it the tools that they use, the machineries? Well, it's actually neither of them. It's a fertilizer. The fertilizer is the biggest cost of running a plantation. And hopefully during the session, I will tell you how artificial intelligence and Internet of Things can help to reduce that cost. I'm Vittorio Furlan, and I'm very passionate at helping business to improve communication with their consumers using advanced technology. And I'm the regional head of business insights for ADA. And ADA is the largest outcome-based data analytics and marketing company. We have presence in 10 countries in South and Southeast Asia. Malaysia is our headquarters. And we are part of the Axiata Group with the investment from SoftBank and the Sumitomo Corporation. We have more than 1,000 people and a large number of data scientists, data engineers, and AI practitioners. So I really look forward to the conversation today on AI and IR 4.0. Back to you, Freda.
Thank you so much, Vittorio. You're not off the hook. I've got questions for you. Up next, I'd like to invite Captain Koh Chen Tian, Executive Chairman for Verifax Asia, and also Ant Chain. Please help me welcome Captain Koh.
Thank you, Freda, and thank you, Vittorio. I mean, after your presentation, we will be pale in comparison, especially coming from an advertising background. Yes, today I'm going to speak about Verifax Asia. Verifax Asia was established about a year ago. I spent the last 25 years traveling the world and decided, because of the pandemic, could not move. So decided to establish my first company in Malaysia after 25 years. And in doing so, I also had a joint venture or a strategic partnership with one of the biggest technology group from China. It's called Ant Group. And just in case you do not know, there is a brother of sister of Alibaba. And what we bring to the technology into the Southeast Asia region is the blockchain technology. And this blockchain technology has been such a phenomenal, I would say, game changer. I think everybody talks about blockchain, everybody talks about Bitcoin, and in the cryptocurrency and so forth. So really, in sense, I would say that Bitcoin is not blockchain. Blockchain is just the technology, whereas Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency that we all use. So it's a very exciting time in the sense that given this pandemic and this things that's happening around us, and we need the increase in our economy, we have come up with a solution to help Malaysia and the ASEAN region to grow out of this, to recover from this pandemic by providing them digital platforms. So one of the things that we are laying out there is a digital supply chain platform. Following, our technology is based on serialization and traceability, and after that layer, on top of that, we start to have an impact or start to have disruption into the traditional supply chain platform. And after that, after we'll be able to give not on the supply chain, we bring in traceability, and also in this big thing now called sustainability. The technology now is able to measure the sustainability impact of products and of the logistics and everything like that. And once done, then after that, we hope to be able to support Malaysia to enhance its economy through trade. Malaysia is a big trading country. And even through this pandemic, even though our economy has suffered, our trade numbers have increased. But I think it needs further increment. Yeah. So in doing so, we will be setting up a digital B2B trade platform for ASEAN and to be connected to the other +5 under the RCEP trade platform. So that is our ambition. It's a big ambition, but I think we need to start somewhere. So, okay, that's where we're going to start. Next, please. Basically, I'm going to explain the end-chain technology. It's been developed in China since 2016, and there's about 3,000 technologists in Alibaba that is actually an Ant Group developing this. So they have the largest blockchain team in China, and I would say probably in the world. And from a technology perspective, there are, every year we submit the most patents application in the blockchain, and it's been there for the last 4 years, right? And the use cases, when this, we have about 50 scenarios covering all industries, from the port to the trade, to the banking sector, to the health sector, you name it, to the apparel sector, to the food sector, to the beverage and so forth. And most of all, especially during this pandemic time, traceability and trace and track has gone into the industries like the pharmaceutical industries, the vaccine tracing, and the cold chain technology. So in this pandemic time, really, our technology has started to flourish, and now there is traction in the industry. Next, please. So Verifax, our ecosystem covers supply chain, but it also can support digital banking. Yeah, and in the new world, of course, we move from CFI to DeFi, from centralized finance to digital finance, when we start to use tokens and cryptocurrencies that is coming in the future. And in this sector, I think to a certain extent, China is very much ahead of the rest of the world, in the sense they have come up with their own digital currency, and also in the sense of coming up with their electronic payment using digital currency. And when it comes to e-government solutions, nowhere it is more prevalent than from where I came. I stayed 15 years in Dubai. The whole industry, the e-government has changed, and everything is paperless now. Everything is on the in the digital world, and there is no paper for you to fill up anymore. And then there is this important area called the digital media, where we start to protect IPs and copyrights for the universities, for the artists, and that's where the NFTs come in. And then, not least but not least, on the smart manufacturing sector. So the innovation we have, blockchain by itself is not adequate. It's very strong. It provides us open shared data, but you need to add in AI, and that's why Vittorio's company is here to support us. And later we have Dr. Maslan to talk about IoT. And on top of that, other than innovation, we sit on the service layer, blockchain layer, that has we can either use N-chain, we can use Hyperledger Fabric. Generally, Hyperledger Fabric is done in the Western countries, yeah, where they are not so adapted to the Chinese technology. And the other side is Quorum, is by JP Morgan. And on this service layer, we have smart contracts, we have nodes management, and so forth. And the security of it there are securities for the data. And on top of that, we sit on the clouds. So there are cloud service providers. Next, please. Yeah. So one of the use cases we'll talk about today is about product provenance or product traceability. And it covers all sectors in retail, in medicine, in wine, in luxury food, in logistics, in government, and also in food, also in agriculture sector. The other one I would like to go into is about supply chain finance. With the short of cash flow in the market these days, SMEs will need supply chain finance for them to export their products or to grow the next crop and so forth. So it is that this is what we can provide, provide this supply chain finance to the SMEs. It covers the retail section, the manufacturing, the logistics, and the finance. So on this side, I just wanted to cover that there is also this digitalization or protection of digital copyrights. This will be very interesting to all the IP owners. And I think the biggest technology moving forward will be the digitalization of assets. Yeah, assets in the sense of there will be digital twins, and these digital twins will form assets, and then we can trade on these assets. So the future could be that we will be trading on tokens. Yeah, token economy. And also it will take us into the new economy called carbonomics, carbon economy of carbon credit and so forth. And it covers all areas. So basically, the areas that we are focusing now is digital asset trading. It's a new economy by itself. Then we do cross-border payment, which has been quite difficult. A lot of trade has been stuck because of payment systems. Then we go into trade financing. Then we go to digital identity. Digital identity is important for EKYC, EKYB. So to keep out the bad players out of the game. And then about asset custody. When does the ownership change? Right? In the and in the supply chain, when does the custody of the asset change? And also, say for properties and all that. Then we have this loyalty tokens and a lot more. And here you can also see there is things like P2P energy trading, right? This will help a lot in the ESG side to support our net zero kind of carbon emission. Right, next. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time is on traceability solution into the target industry. It is for anti-counterfeit and to ensure there's a checking system. So there has been a lack of end-to-end information on transparency and traceability. And a lot of people are concerned about tampering and forgery in the supply chain. And then also there is hard to track, and you said now transfer of money around, there will be records of it. So that itself will, I think, to a certain extent, stop corruption. In one of the biggest way of checking on corruption is to have transparency of how the money moves around. I guess that's what China is trying to do, to manage and control their banking sector through that. Lastly, one more. So I see this is how the technology is being used. We are talking about cross-product traceability, and we start with two products on the right-hand side of Fonterra Dairy from New Zealand, the dairy product, and also Blackmore, the supplement for vitamin supplement. So we have two tracks. One is in the information track, and the other one is the logistic track. So when we put this onto this traceability platform, what it does is that obviously the logistics, the hardware and the products will have its own usual logistics and supply chain. It will move from the manufacturing where they have batch production, and at that stage is given a QR code, a unique QR code. Now it's possible that every product can have its own, product passport, right? So we are talking about health passport for human beings, but now in the future, every product will have its own passport also to track back to where it started from. From the manufacturer, then it goes into production. Then you have the ICQ, the international inspection that has to be done, and all this is tracked. And then from there, you go into the cross-border supply chain, and then the logistic, and go warehouse, and then to the bonded warehouse to the consumer. And now that we can engage the consumer can start to find out this product, the provenance of this product, where it is initiated from, and whether it is been manufactured using ethical sourcing, and whether it will meet the sustainability requirements towards net zero emission. But the information, that's more important. The data start to flow into this pool or this lake of data that sits on the blockchain. And this data is immutable, it is transparent, right? And it cannot be changed. And it's a single source of truth. And in this private, there are public and private sector systems, but generally we work in a private sector system that only certain people are permissioned to go and access the data. So you can imagine that all the data are no longer siloed. They go into a pool, and only certain people are allowed in, right? So this is our presentation for today, and I'm open to questions later. Thank you, Freda. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Captain.
Yes.
Last but not least, we're going to invite Dr. Mazlan Abbas, the CEO of Favor IoT, and he's also the top 50 global thought leaders on the Internet of Things. So over to you, Dr. Mazlan.
Thank you, Freda. So it's quite interesting when Vittorio mentioned about the growth and the evolution of, or we say the revolution of the industrial. We have seen now in IR 4.0, there are various technologies which we have mentioned earlier, AI and also blockchain. And of course, Internet of Things is one of the key elements in the IR 4.0. We have a very interesting journey as a startup as compared to our fellow colleagues. They are big organizations as compared to us. We are still very small, still growing. Yet we have a very interesting journey because when we started off our journey in 2017, the idea was not as what we are doing now. The idea is slightly different. We are thinking of transforming the way the senior people are living at home, who's, we are aging in place and no one is taking care of them. So we must find a way of how to monitor them from remote and their health and also their safety. So we design a product which have a wearable device, which the senior people can still living at home, but live alone, but not left alone. So we can still monitor them from remote by their children. So the idea is for us to ensure their safety and also their health. But along the way, we found out there's a lot of other things which people ask us. They ask us whether can we develop other IoT solutions, not only that particular healthcare solutions. And we found out that, yes, we indeed have that platform and we feel that we want to offer this platform. And the idea now is to IoTize the whole or every business. So that's the idea. So as we see that along the way, there's not single companies can develop the whole end-to-end solutions, from the sensors, from the connectivity, from the platform, and even the application side. So our strength is actually in the middleware. We have developed our own internal in-house platform. We can create applications and we can work with other parties in the whole ecosystem. Of course, like the people in the areas of like artificial intelligence, hardware, sensors, even the telcos themselves. So that's the idea. So when we offer this, we feel that there must be a lot more talents, in Malaysia when we offer these services. And we found there's still a lot of lack of talents of people building IoT solutions because, in fact, in the universities, we found there's still a gap within that space. And we go back to the universities and say that, hey, you have to start off this journey towards IoT in making sure that your syllabus are in line with the industry. So now we are offering this platform not only for the universities, the colleges who can learn of how to build solutions. We are also offering these solutions for commercial customers, and they can build their own applications. We are different category of platform providers. We are not the one like the Amazon, the Google, the IBMs. They are the publicly traded platforms. We are not the open source platform where there are communities who are doing that. We are not the end-to-end solutions platform who build hardware and their own applications, but we are actually a developer-friendly platform. So we allow people to connect their sensors onto the platform, and we also allow the developers to extract the data and create their own applications. So in fact, we are actually a platform as a service where the applications and the data belongs to the end user who use the platform. So the idea now, instead of having multiple sources of data being connected to different silo of systems, now we have a single system that can collect every sensors from every applications, and you can blend the data together. That's the idea. Because once we have a single repository, we have a single way of managing your devices, a smart city ecosystem, which is very large, very complex, cannot be simplified. So that's the idea of having a blended applications by having a single platform to do that. So regardless whether you're in, doing smart living, smart environment, having smart mobility, the platform can be used for that purpose. But of course, I think a favorite is not only a platform provider for one solutions provider, but we also provide this to more than 114 countries around the world. So yes, we are still a growing number of people who are actually using the platform, more than 4,800 people doing that. Of course, as I mentioned to you just now, we are platform as a service. We don't know what exactly the applications that they build. Of course, if there are things that they want to build together, we will work together with them. We also have other applications that transform the digital transformation of a smart city, having a favor sense applications that can manage and their trouble ticketing issues, and we do also have a consumer applications, digital applications where they can track their family members, where they are. They can manage their plans and daily activities. The good thing is that the weird thing about this is that when we developed Discover, it's actually meant for tourism. That was early before the COVID happened. And when that happens, the whole tourism industry, doesn't, grow that fast. And what happened is that we have to pivot and transform our Discover into something which is more user-friendly, home-friendly for the family members who can manage each other. So I think that's a short one about briefing about February. Thank you. I'll pass back to Freda.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mazlan. Okay, I'm just mindful of time. So for those of you who have questions, start putting them down and we'll go through with them, as and when we can. So I'm going to start the first question to Vittorio, for the uninitiated and those still unclear, what is artificial intelligence? What is AI? Can you explain it in simple terms, Vittorio?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. And you can imagine AI as a child, as a kid, somebody that is there like a sponge absorbing any type of information that you feed them, right. Whether it's good information or bad information. Don't have the ability to say what is right or what is wrong, but they absorb a lot, and they also are able to do only one thing. They're able either to learn how to write and speak, or they're able to do maths, or they're able to stack Lego blocks, for example. Right. And they do it very well. And this one is what we call narrow AI, which is the artificial intelligence that is used in the industry. And it's what we've been talking. We will talk today. And for the people in the audience, many of you are already using AI. You may not know it, but every time that you call Siri or Google on your phone, there is actually a series of AI modules that are used. Or every time that you apply for a credit card, the credit scoring is performed through an AI module. So AI is very much out there. And again, it's like a kid that learns everything that you teach them, and they learn to do it very well, right or wrong.
Right. Okay. And you also mentioned automated video creation and palm plantations in your introduction, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll touch a bit more on the palm plantation and the fertilizer. Fertilizer is one of the biggest costs in that industry. And the matter is quite simple in a way. There is an agronomist that needs to decide how much fertilizer should be given to the plants, and there is a worker that needs to go out with the machinery or a manual spreading and give the fertilizer out. Of course, for the agronomist, they need to simplify what the situation is. They need to come up with instructions for the overall plantation. For the worker, they need to follow the instructions, and we know that sometimes instructions may or may not be followed as they are. Maybe the machinery is not working properly. Now, would it be nice if there was actually an AI machine that can take more information in, can take information about the state of the soil using Dr. Mazlan's IoT sensors. It can take information with a drone by looking at each and every tree. And then it can relay this information to the worker. For example, with also measuring with a Fitbit how much spreading is done, or looking at the position of the tractor. Now, these machines exist, and they're able to maximize the use of fertilizer. So not using too much or not using too little, almost on a plant by plant, with of course benefits for the economy, because you do not waste money, but also benefits for the environment because you do not cause unneeded pollution.
Right. Now, it seems as difficult to understand how AI makes decision, right? Now, isn't that a problem or an issue?
Look, it's a very important point. As I was saying before, the AI does whatever the AI gets taught. Mm-hmm. So if you got to the case of, again, Dr. Mazlan and the IoT that detects whether an elderly is falling, that is going to be an outstanding use that is going to help people, that is going to make lives much better. But imagine the case, Freda, that the two of us go and apply for a credit card, and I get the credit card, but you get rejected. We may be thinking that it's because of our credit scoring, but we may also discover eventually, as it actually happened, that I got the credit card because I'm a man, and you didn't because you are a woman. And the problem there is not that somebody is deliberately doing something bad. The problem is that the way that the machine gets taught can take biases from the people that are teaching, oftentimes technicians type of people, but also can get biases from the data that is used to train. For example, if in the past there was discrimination in credit card approval, the machine would just replicate at scale that type of discrimination. So there is indeed a need of governance so that AI can do the good things and not the bad things.
Captain or Dr. Mazlan, would you like to add on to anything that Vittorio has said?
Yes, maybe I'd just like to add a little bit about the AI part. Because a lot of people feel that AI is only software or certain applications, that a chatbot pops up and says that this is AI. But in fact, the interesting about AI now, because it resides in many other things. Even simply as your vehicle has an AI, so that now your car is having very intelligence. You have robots, now AI. And in fact, animals also have their own AI. Anything that have brains, I would say that is AI. But the interesting part about AI, the challenge is, Vittorio, I think I would say that the ethics is something which is very difficult to be embedded in AI. For example, people like driving. When people drive, they have their own ethics. Malaysian ethics of driving compared to the US, the Europe, the Taiwan or the Saudis might be different.
Right.
So how do you embed ethics of driving behavior into a car? Formulation, for example. So I always give this example where you have a level 5 autonomous car, which is very intelligent, and yet you are still have given a full control for the car to drive. It has 3 decisions making process. I mean, when there is the brake is not working, you have 3 decisions. You go left, you hit a group of children. You turn to right, you hit a group of old ladies or men. You go straight, you hit the wall, and you will die. So, what are the decisions of the car is going to make? So, is that something that how do you embed? People perceive children is more important than the old ladies, or the old ladies is more important from the children, or even yourself. Right. So, that's something that we need to think of. So, that's the challenge of AI.
Right. Thanks for that, Dr. Mazlan. So, Captain, so AntChain is part of the Trust Blockchain Initiative by China Academy of Information and Communications Technology, CAICT. Now, what are the best use cases of these blockchain technologies in China, and how have the applications of this technology benefited the Chinese industries and its economy?
Yes, thank you, Freda, for that question. That's really a very good question in the sense that, and I'd like to address this to all the practitioners of blockchain and all those people in Malaysia that are starting on this journey. You see, for the last 2 years during our global pandemic, China has increased their strategic investment in digital transformation by the government, enterprise and vendors, and it has propelled China's blockchain adoption ahead of other countries. China is entering the age of blockchain of 3.0. In the past decade, from 2015 or so, they started to go through that period where they were focusing on digital currency application. So what you see now was started about 5 to 6 years ago. That after that, then they use blockchain with the visionary enterprise and vendors begin to gain business value by piloting blockchain technology. And this is where Malaysia is. Malaysia did not go into the first stage at all. But then since the second half of last year, the year before, in 2019, with the start of the pandemic, the privatization of enterprise customers, the technology progress made by the tech leaders, and the government pragmatic measures have been driving China market into the age of 3.0. And it's where the blockchain adoption gains momentum in all major verticals. Now, vendors in China are advancing their technology to address the enterprise needs. They are very pragmatic. They go into the economy, and Chinese are very much into that, to address the needs of the enterprise for performance, scalability, privacy, and security. So the Chinese firms that have made strategic investments include the likes of Ant Group, Baidu, EY, Huawei, and OneConnect, and so forth. Tencent Cloud also. They made substantial progress in blockchain technology, and including asymmetric encryption, zero knowledge proof, homophilic encryption, where you humanize the encryption itself, and also consensus performance. Blockchain is now transferring all major verticals. Blockchain is transforming the existing business operation and enabling a new business model within the digital ecosystem across all major industries, including banking, insurance, healthcare, energy, government, manufacturing, retail, telecommunication, and logistics. There's hardly any sector that's not affected. Specifically for the financial service, they prioritize on the process transformation of effectiveness and increased trust. Actually, the thing about blockchain is trust in a trustless society. They provide trust in all trade and all. Right. Traditional is to verticals into driving innovation, improve collaboration, and government focus to service and experience. Lastly, I want to say about it is that the Chinese digital bank currency, the CBDC, and their digital currency electronic payment, this is where to them is the most crucial. It's a way of managing the trade war between them and the Americans. And this is how they want to. We now no longer in the usual war, but we're now in trade wars. China will continue to lead in both these sectors because they put many people into technologies into this to develop this technology. And with the world using digital currency and the total transformation of the financial service industry to one that is contactless, paperless, seamless, transparent, and where trust is made simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Does it warrant something like this in Malaysia, and what are the parties or stakeholders that should be involved in collaborating?
Yeah, I think in the sense that as Malaysia recovers from our probably most devastating downturn in our economy, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is really critical for us to continue to increase our trade numbers. This is one number that's still going up in the right place, right? Going up in the right way. With our major trading partners, I see foreign trade and investment as our main engine of growth for economy recovery. And with the recent signing of the RCEP trade agreement, it's urgent and important that we connect digitally onto this enormous RCEP digital B2B trade platform that covers ASEAN and 5 countries. We have proposed to the various government agencies, and they are quite receptive to it, like Embed, MIDA, and Matrix, to collaborate with us, and including the private industries, to develop and build a national provenance supply chain platform with open data sharing, powered by AI, blockchain, and IoT. It is our intention to collaborate with the major exporting industries like the oil and gas, the oil palm, the electronic and electrical, but we will start with the PPE industry, where we are facing a lot of trade restriction to their non-compliance to certain of the ECG standards. This national provenance platform will facilitate the independent digital audit and provide third-party assessment of the industry's ESG practice onto their sustainability, authenticity, origin, certification, and covering even workers' welfare using blockchain technology as the single source of truth that is immutable and trustless. Yeah.
Okay, so you brought up this point about sustainability, and this is a question to all, right? How is sustainability expected from corporations pushing this agenda for IR? So, Captain, maybe you can start off first. And
yeah. So, what often when you come to this issue of sustainability, the corporate will say, is it a cost or is it a real investment? When do you get our ROI in, right? But you can imagine, I won't mention names, but one of our biggest corporate in the glove industry had that lost about billions of dollars because of branding, right? Of that their products were restricted from going somewhere else. So for companies like this is really important. And also moving ahead, there is this ESG financing, green funds that's coming up. So to attract these green funds, I think we have to have a means of measurement, a means of auditing that is done digitally, right? Transparently, so that we do not get unfair treatment, right? So the way, so that it will not be a case of somebody lobbying against our oil palm or against our gloves and so forth. But it is everything is transparent,
Right.
and the records are immutable, and it can be trusted. So I think that by having an audit system, a digital audit system, and inexpensive and accessible, and this can be done. So we don't have to spend the kind of money bringing in the experts from overseas to come and do the inspection. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Mazlan, Vittorio, anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, I think to have this sustainability is not only for corporations, to push this agenda. We have seen in the 4IR policy, the policy that we have launched this year. This policy mentioned about there are 3 stakeholders, which is very important. The government themselves, one is the government. They must be the one that facilitate and enable more innovative solutions to be deployed and to be embraced. That is very important, very key. Secondly, what we're seeing is the business themselves. They are the one that should stand up and, of course, to embrace any new technologies for them to stay resilient and also to be more competitive. The third one, actually, what we call the rakyat, the citizens themselves. This is quite challenging too, and we must make sure that they are aware that the usage of new technologies or the emerging technologies that's coming. So that's my point. Thanks.
Right. Now, if anybody had any questions, please put them through, because I am mindful of time and I really don't want to eat into the other session. But Dr. Mazlan, favorites tagline is "Let's IoTize your business." So how willing are companies jumping on this bandwagon?
That's the topic about the hype versus reality, right? The journey is not that easy in Malaysia, but of course, any new technologies will always take time to embrace or be adopted, especially when it involves cost, it involves a mindset transformation, right? But I will always give this example of to measure the readiness or willingness is to measure when you attend a conference or exhibitions. In which area that you see people mostly going to be? Is it at the conference or the exhibitions?
Right.
If they are actually in the conference hall, they're still trying to grasp the idea of awareness, the benefits, how people is doing, the trials that they have done, the success story. They're still trying to learn. But if there's a lot more people in the exhibition hall, that means a lot of people are getting ready. They are trying to find solutions. They are trying to find partners. They are to find how to deploy this in the real solutions. So that's where I see, if you go to Malaysian exhibitions, you see that there's a big gap.
Right.
Sometimes I would see more people in the conference hall, and people who like us, who are the vendors who stay at the exhibition hall, no one is coming to our booth.
Right. Okay.
So that is one step, one way to show that whether we are ready or not. Right.
Okay. Very interesting observation,
Yes.
Doctor.
Yes, Freda, there's more talk than the walk, actually.
Okay. Now,
There's so many societies been set up to talk about it, but nobody really going down into the field and creating the products and getting adoption from the industry. And I think entrepreneurs and corporate has to do this. Yeah.
Right.
But moving forward, I think what we are seeing now is like change. But of course, the proof is not there yet, because the whole last 2 years, there's no exhibition for us to see, whether it's the readiness or willingness. But we are seeing a lot more solutions are coming in, requests. We are seeing a lot of applications in the area like agriculture, the area of manufacturing sector, chicken farms, urban farming, more on that side of areas. Yeah.
Okay, which is, I guess, positive. Now, your company also partners a lot with several universities, right? And I think this is where, the young, how are universities staying ahead of the game, and what still needs to evolve here so that our students who will be future leaders are 4IR ready?
Yeah, when we have started this journey since in 2014, we have seen that this is a big gap, especially in the current syllabus. where are the talents? The industry wants them, but they are not there. So then we realized that, oh, okay, the universities, their syllabus are not in line, not refreshed in line with the current requirement from the industries. So we have to go back to the universities and ask them and to refresh by doing the, new courses should be introduced, new technologies, because in IT, for example, you have to start off with developing hardware, the sensors. You need to have electronic skills. You need to have embedded programming. If you want to be in the telco area, you need to understand about telecommunications technology. And then if you want to develop the cloud middleware, the API programming, then you need to learn that part. And of course, if you want to develop applications to become a system integrator or software developer, you need to learn how to build a mobile app. You have to learn about machine learning or big data analytics. But of course, now we are seeing the last 2 or 3 years, the universities have already refreshed, and we are hoping that the new generation of graduates that are coming up have that skills. So it's good to see now. So hopefully we are not that late, right?
Right. Okay. I've got a question here. I don't have any questions from the public. I think they're all still in the conference room.
Yes.
So maybe they don't have any questions, right? Not at the exhibitions yet. So this is to all of you, right? And I think this is it's a recent article. The TPM CEO said that while Malaysia is one of the highest manufacturing output levels in the world, the country is actually lagging other countries in terms of employee productivity, R&D, and a workforce with higher education degrees. And she said Malaysia faces a slow adoption rate of IR 4.0, with only 15 to 20% of companies having actually embraced it. So how late in the game are we, and what should we be concerned about competitively, right? And with that, I want to couple the question: do we have enough of the right resources and infrastructure to become an IR 4.0 epicenter for all of us? So maybe I'll get a captain to say to give you.
I think I've seen lived in China and I live in Dubai, right? These are 2 areas where a lot of engineers and technology has been created. New cities like Shenzhen has come about. And Dubai and Abu Dhabi, these are also the hubs of technology. Okay? So to a certain extent, the initiative is taken by the government in no uncertain. And in Dubai, they said that they wanted to create 1 million Arab technologists. That's a very bold thing. It's like us Malaysians saying that we will send the first man to the moon. So these are the things. So that's the first. But then corporate and enterprises need to also follow up. Not sit on our laurel. We are going to be disrupted. For sure, we're going to be disrupted. It's either we start to disrupt others or we're going to disrupt. So this thing about disruption week, I think the message has to get across that we got to get going. Not just talk about it, but get going. Yeah, be courageous, be committed to it. And then we build a capability. And once after that, if we get the confidence to do it, then we will be successful. And then don't be shy about copying. These days, cut and paste is nothing wrong with it because technology is there. And a lot of it is open source already. So let's take all the tools, play with it, and create your own innovation in the future. Right. So that is it. I think also the education system has to change and be more aligned. Usually what happens, they are talking about technology that's 5 years ago, right? So how do we compete? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So so we copy and paste, and then we embellish on top of it and make it our own, right? Yes. Vittorio, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Captain Co makes a good point, especially when he mentioned about his international experience and what we see in the world. I think Malaysia is, for many of us, whether we were born here or whether we came. We like Malaysia. We think that it's got extreme potential. It's advanced against many economies. The use of IR 4.0, even if it is low, according to that report, is still there. But we do think there is more that can be done. And what Kaplan Co was saying about ensuring that we disrupt before we get disrupted is probably key. Really pushing for Malaysia to become an epicenter of foreign investment for startups and entrepreneurs to come here and choose Malaysia as their point, but also for talent in general. All these new advanced technologies work well when you've got diversity. when you've got experiences, when you can do the cut and paste that he was referring to.
Yeah.
And to do that, we need an open economy and an open society that allows this to happen at scale. And again, we can look at our neighboring countries, Singapore, Australia. They tend to do that, and they tend to do it quite well. Again, not to say that we are any lesser than them in terms of potential, but there are things that can be copied.
Right. So does self-disrupt or be disrupted? Dr. Mazlan, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've seen that article. The TPMC also mentioned that there are 2,000 technology-based companies, and hopefully the My Digital will able to double that numbers to 5,000 by 2025, right? But how realistic is this when since day one until today we have 2,000, but in the next 4 years we have to jump by double? So that's one thing.
Right.
And also, but you know, furthermore, we are seeing that a lot of our complaints come from our graduates. They say that the salary that they have now is like the same that the past 15 to 20 years ago. Why is not being increasing? Is it because our graduates don't have the right talents, or the jobs that we created don't require that kind of talents? So as for me, I think we have been too long to become a consumer nation. A consumer nation that buys and consumes products from overseas, from other countries. We have not reached the status of this, what we call the producer nation, where actually we develop technology products that can be commercialized and can be consumed by our own local market. That's what we want. But to do this, we need to support the local tech companies. That is very key, because by supporting the local companies, you buy from them, then they can sustain and they can continue pumping their revenue back into their own R&D. So once they can sustain, you can actually have a better roadmap, a more stable roadmap, which in return, if you don't have the resources, you can work with the universities, for example, who can help you to create more technologies, new intellectual properties. The local universities don't have to go up to the commercial product. They can only build lab prototypes, but they can work with the industry, the companies who can work up to the stage of a commercial product, beta trial. By doing that, you can see the feedback. You can improve your R&D. You can improve your local consumption market, and of course, by the end of the day, the local companies can create more jobs for us. Then we have become ready as a 4IR nation.
Right. So less consumption, more production on our end, right? Thank you so much, gentlemen. There are no questions from the floor. I think, like I said, they're all quietly listening in the convention room, right? Thank you again for spending time this afternoon. For all of you who have joined us, I learned a lot.
Thank you, Freda.
So thank you. I'd like to thank Vittorio, Captain Ko, and Dr. Mazlan, and for this insightful session. And I'm going to hand it back to the lovely MC Azrul. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Freda. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Freda, and to all our esteemed panel members of that wonderful discussion and insights on application of 4IR. Hype or real? Well, consensus says it's real, not a matter of if, but more about when and how. In Captain Ko's words, get going. Come on, everyone, let's make Malaysia truly the heart of digital ASEAN. We will now be moving forward to our next session of the day. It will begin very shortly, so do click join session and also complete the survey for each of the sessions for us to continuously serve you better. So we'll see you in a bit.